Dylan Raiola was at the basketball game.
Right.
Nebraska beats Indiana 86-70. Dylan Raiola was sitting with Trev Alberts at this basketball game, which is people thought was interesting in general.
He was on a recruiting mission, though, right, Mike? Basically.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure what he was. I assume he's basically just here and is going to be here in Lincoln for the rest of the duration, even though other players aren't arriving until the 13th, I think is what I've heard.
Right.
A similar refrain. So he might just be here, and obviously his uncle is here, and because he was with Dom last night, and so
Dom. I mean, full disclosure. I'm not going to act like I don't talk. Dom said he's here recruiting, and Isaiah Nayer.
Yeah. I couldn't come up with a first name. I was like, there's a Jalen Naylor, and then there's like a bunch of similar sounding players, and so it was all lost in there. But yeah, wide receiver was at Wyoming.
Yes.
Before he went to Texas, had one catch for 14 yards last year, but did have a big year in 2021. Is a guy that, Nebraska looking to add to their wide receiver room with some people that have production. He would certainly have more than what they have returning. And then he's the first of two wide receivers expected this weekend, with Jamal Banks being the other from Wake Forest. So, it would be a nice sort of depth pickup, but I don't know that it's something that you can have a ton of expectation for.
No, I don't know. I mean, it kind of depends on how he comes off a knee injury.
Right. And then it's, and it's almost a little Isaiah Garcia Castaneda-ish in a way. I mean, you had a good performance at a lower level. What happens now when you move up? Are you healthy? Can you beat out these other wide receivers? That's the other thing. Like, whatever he might be, is he going to be better than some of those guys? Like even a Demetrius Bell, who we've never seen before. Like
what he might be, though, is 6'3" and 215 pounds.
Right. Yeah. Gives you some size on the outside.
Right.
To go alongside Malachi Coleman there.
Sarkeesian. Now he, like you said, he had a big year in 2021 at Wyoming. 44 catches, 878 yards, 12 touchdowns. That's good. I mean, that's production.
Yeah.
44 catches, 878 yards, 12 touchdowns. Sarkeesian. Now he went to Texas and he injured his knee and just didn't pan out. Now he was on the road to panning out. He had a big spring at Texas, then hurt his knee in the fall. And Sarkeesian said this, and this gets my attention. I know it gets Jake's attention. He's a real weapon on deep balls, and in the red area, he's a big physical guy. Those are the guys that are of critical importance to me, because it's so hard to score in the red zone in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
it's so hard to score. I mean, if you get the ball first and goal at the 9, it is hard to score if you don't have guys like that.
Nope.
Well, especially if you're not just able to line it up and move the pile, and that's hard for anybody to do, let alone, Nebraska. So, they've needed to utilize the passing game inside the red zone for years now. I mean, we talked about it towards the end of the Scott Frost tenure, but the inability to get Austin Allen involved.
Oof.
He had
to go there with
right
for years.
So,
Ethan Carter back in the day.
You have gone on for years about that.
Well, I mean,
exactly.
that's just that's the reality of what it's been for Nebraska. And even this year, like, they weren't able to really get the ball to Thomas Fidone or to Nate Borkercher or, even Malachi Coleman or the wide receivers really inside the red zone. So any additional help that you can do there, anything that you can give, Dylan or Heinrich or Daniel, DHD there, anything that you can give those guys is going to be well received. I mean, they need depth on top of it, and they need experience too, because you got a lot of young wide receivers.
You're right. I mean, you mentioned Jamal Banks from Wake Forest is also visiting. Is there a scenario you see where they take both of them?
I just don't know how the numbers work out with that. I mean, if you have these other visitors, I mean, you have Dante Dowell, you have the linebacker from Idaho, 247Sports hasn't confirmed it, but you have Stephon Thompson visiting.
Syracuse.
So the expectation, and then certainly a guy like that, I think, is an easy take if he wants in, given his relationship with Tony White and the familiarity there. I don't know that you can take all of them.
It'd be hard.
I don't understand how they have the numbers to even take 4 or 3 of them. To be perfectly frank. So whatever they can kind of get out of this, I think for me, the most important piece still is probably that running back.
Dowell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with
you.
Nothing away from Jamal Banks, who would be the 1B in this scenario. I just really don't like the picture at running back for Nebraska.
You made that very clear last week, Mike.
I made that clear
you did.
in about every chance I've got.
Yeah, you did.
I don't think I'm getting invited to the running back holiday party next year.
You missed your invite. Yeah.
I don't know that EJ Barthel is going to to be excited if I have questions for him.
No, I see where you're going. And I mean, I just like the picture of Dante Dowell, 6'2", 218, with Gabe Irvin, 6 foot 225, and an attack that does go downhill a lot.
Yeah, well, they need to add something to that room. Like they got nothing from the high school level, so they at least need another body in there.
Yeah.
And then wide receiver I think is really important too, and they definitely would benefit adding a Jamal Banks, I think specifically. But
my answer to that though is if you can get both Banks and the Texas kid, do it. Just take them both. Because I think now we're a little different on this topic. I think that room needs it. I think they need.
I think they need help, but I guess I feel slightly better in some ways, even though they're really inexperienced. I feel at least slightly better about the upside of that room. The running back room, I don't think it's. I think it's a flat line. Like I don't think there's an arrow up.
Ooh.
I don't think it's bad.
Hold on, can we address that? Irvin was coming.
Yeah, I mean, he's had the best spring imaginable 3 straight years. And
I'm talking about Colorado.
I get it, but I need him on the field before it matters, right?
That's fair.
Like, how many guys have you seen have had promising seasons derailed by the fact that they couldn't stay on the field?
But if they had Dowell, who was 8th ranked recruit in the country. Running back. 8th ranked running back in the country. Good enough to be recruited by Oregon. In fact, good enough to appear in 6 games at Oregon, which is like appearing in 6 games at Ohio State.
Yeah.
If you put Dowell, Irvin, and then you have Ramir Johnson, who's a good, solid college running back with big time speed.
Yeah.
I'm feeling okay now.
Yeah.
I'm feeling okay.
Like I feel better if you have the Oregon kid. I mean, if you remove that from the equation.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's what I mean, though.
He's not just a body. Dowdell's not just a body.
I agree.
He's capable of starting.
Right. And that's what I mean, though. Without that room is just a flat line for me.
Okay. All right.
Whereas at least the wide receivers, like I'm excited about Jalen Lloyd. I'm excited about Malachi Coleman. Like they're green.
What about Jaden Doss?
I'm excited about Jaden Doss too. It's just I didn't get to see him as much.
I'm most excited about Jaden Doss.
Really?
Yes. Most excited about Jaden Doss. I think
why?
When you see, because he got injured in August, but he was going to be the best one of those 3. Then he got injured in August. We saw it. We were there. We were there when it happened, and it set him back. I thought Doss was going to be the best of the 3, but I like them all.
Yeah,
I like all.
Well,
3.
and then Bell, they really like Bell a lot.
Right.
I mean, we heard about him with the scout team, throughout the season, and then they talked about him kind of at the end, and so. I like kind of the upside of those guys, but yeah, they definitely need a veteran.
I like upside. I hate the word in a way because it's always, okay, well, that means it's going to be in the future. Banks has 107 catches. Banks, the kid from Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Banks has 600 yards in each of the last 2 seasons. He's proven.
Yep.
He's coming in and playing.
Yeah.
And he's 6'4".
Yeah.
6'4".
Another red zone guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that I don't, but if you could only pick one, I'm going with if you could only pick one of the 5, I would go with Dante Dowell. Oh. And if you can have multiple, then it goes to Banks, and then after that,
one of the 5 visitors.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They're gonna be able to take more. I don't understand how, and I honestly at this point have no idea what the numbers are gonna look like for anything in the future. But yeah, I expect them to be able to take more. I just don't think they could take all 5.
There are 5.
It feels like 3 to 4 is about where it's at.
For people that are wondering what we're talking about, they have 5 portal visitors coming in this week. One was in town yesterday, Isaiah Nayor, who's a receiver from Texas by way of Wyoming. So he was here, and that's why Dylan was at the game, according to his dad. Dylan is a recruiter, essentially. The big horse is in town recruiting. I call him the big
You're
horse?
gonna call everybody the big horse that you can.
I mean, if they get Dowdell, are you going to call
If
him the
there's
big horse?
anybody you can possibly call a big horse, he's gonna call them a big horse. It's his favorite.
Are you going to make
nickname.
noises for Dylan when he's back there passing? I know that.
Give us an example of a noise you might make.
Like, what does a quarterback noise sound like?
I have to think. Can I please think about that a little bit?
Sure.
Oh.
We need to be prepared for the noises you're going to make when Dylan does something big.
I'm not making it right now. I'm not ready for this.
He's going to grunt.
Yeah.
He's going to grunt.
All right. Well, there you go. That's pretty key recruiting week. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And in terms of last night, there's a bunch of offers that went out to Nebraska kids.
Yes.
Who received offers that you were aware of?
Okay. So I talked with Pierce Mooberry,
Yes.
the defensive back linebacker from Millard North, 6'4", 200 pounds. He is he said Nebraska's kind of recruiting him at the rover spot.
Okay.
So that I found sort of interesting. All of these guys have a very similar body type, which is probably the most prevalent body type that Nebraska high school has to offer. And that is why there's all of these Power 5 tight ends coming out of Nebraska, just multiple. There is right here in town in Lincoln, Jackson Carpenter is at Lincoln Southwest. Alan True caught up with him. I don't know exactly where Nebraska is looking at for Jackson Carpenter, but he's another, again, 6'3", 6'4", 200-pound athlete. And then
Legacy player also.
Yep.
Legacy player Tim Carpenter. Yep.
And then
Absolutely.
there was one that
Dad's from Columbus.
Brunt's caught up with.
There it is.
Big horse.
That
What's wrong with you?
Go ahead.
no, you're good. I couldn't think of the name. I changed the letters for the first and the last name. So it's Ryman Ziebert. And if I would have just said it, I would have said Zyman Rebert. So I needed to make sure I got that
Good
correct.
job confirming that.
He is a 2025 from Platteview, 6'6", 210 pounds.
Okay.
The kind of, it's hard to even say this because it's unfair because Carter Nelson is such a unique player, but that would be the sort of similar body type to that, just a freakish athlete that's really good at basketball. Maybe doesn't have the high jumping skills of the state champion that Carter Nelson has, but Ryman Ziebert is a guy that Brunts has been kind of, watching for a while. Had 677 yards receiving last year. Again, another tight end prospect.
Brunts likes it.
Yeah, Brunts has been expecting this one coming for a while. So, three sort of really interesting offers. Again, all very similar body types in that 6'6" to 6'3.5", 215 pounds or so. And then one they're looking at as a line, I think two on the defensive side, and then one in Ziebert as a tight end.
Ryman
Ryman
Ziebert.
Ziebert.
Please
I don't know why I want to call him Zyman Rebert. I just
That's
do.
kind of a cool name.
I like it. Jake, allow me to venture outside my lane real quick.
This could go
with
a lot of different places.
I'm venturing outside my lane. Schaefer.
I'm nervous.
Schaefer, you cover this. You've covered it more years than me. Recruiting. I was impressed, maybe unduly impressed, but I was impressed that Rule is the one who called Mooberry. He texted him.
Yep.
Rule texted Mooberry, Pierce.
We called him, then he texted him when Mooberry didn't. Mooberry screened his call. So Pierce is telling me this.
Rule.
He's like,
okay,
there's a number coming across and I don't have it in my phone. And I just, I didn't think it was, I didn't know who it was. I didn't, whatever.
And then
he's like, and then I got a text and the text is like, hey, this is Coach Rule. If you have a chance, give me a call.
If you have a chance, call me back.
Yeah. And he was like, I felt really dumb.
Well,
so I called immediately.
But you guys are native Nebraskans. I mean, and I'm older. I'm trying to think as a high school kid getting a call from Tom Osborne that said, please call me back. Matt Rule in this case. That's
Could
amazing.
not imagine it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Could not imagine it.
That's amazing.
If you get the time.
I would also
if you get the time, you call me back. It's Matt Rule.
Mom, the way my personality is, I would have a tough time believing that it's actually going to be Matt Rule on the other end of the phone.
100.
What's the AI on the phone?
Right.
Some sort of voice person.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Some sort of computer thing.
But
Matt Rule's calling me.
Dude, I mean, I was just impressed that the head coach did that because I don't think all head coaches do it.
Mike Riley was really big on making the in-state offers here in Nebraska. He certainly was the one that did that.
How about Frost?
I feel like it was sometimes Frost, sometimes Barrett Ruud, sometimes the position coach.
That was my impression.
It wasn't always Frost, and I don't know that that's the.
I don't know if it's
thing,
always Rule. I don't know if it's always Rule.
It has been Rule for a lot of them. I mean, it was Rule for Jalen Lloyd was the first offer they made. It was Rule for trying to think of who else. I think Donovan Jones, when he got his phone call, it started with Evan Cooper, and then they put Rule on, that kind of thing. Look, he's usually pretty involved with the in-state stuff.
I like
it. I think that's by design.
I like that picture.
I think they want the high school coaches in the state to know that they may not be able to take everybody, but they're not going to miss on people. Like first of all, if your kid's good enough, he needs to go to a camp. And then if he has been at a camp, or if he didn't, but he's still good enough, they're going to find you anyways.
Right.
And again, they might not be able to take everybody. They couldn't take Michael Burt. They didn't take Caleb Pyfrom. They didn't take other guys last year that ended up as Power 5 players, but they certainly are going to be aware of them, which is a lot more than maybe you could say from the previous couple staffs that with their in-state kind of
100
effort.
And Rule emphasizes the camp. I mean, he wants them at the camp.
And I love it because it's, you have stories like Donovan Jones and some of these other guys where it's like, if they didn't go to that camp, they probably aren't seen, but the fact they did go to that camp allowed them to get an offer. So it's basically like, if you're a good player in state and you think you're good enough to play, whether it's a walk-on or scholarship, but you don't go to those summer camps, you're doing yourself such a huge disservice.
100.
There's multiple players in Omaha that I know of in the 25 and 26 class that skipped Nebraska's camp last summer.
Cost them.
That aren't hearing from the staff because they're, they didn't get to work with them.
They want them there.
And basically what they've heard from them is, hey, we want you to come to junior days and to come to, this camp. We're not going to chase you necessarily. Like, we know you exist, but you got to show it.
Come show us. And Jake, the thing, it's not always like the head coaches sometimes aren't very involved in these camps. I've watched the camps. Rule has a stopwatch.
Yeah.
He's asking kids. He's pointing out, kid, hey, come run for me.
You want to see him involved. Watch the one-on-ones between offensive line, defensive line. He was working with, I think it was like Jack Limbaugh and Jake Peters last year, and just like going up and talking to him about different things. And
I love that part of Rule. I love that. Love it.
Yeah, no, it's a different, the camp thing especially is very, very different than any of the coaches that I have covered.
Thank you.
They are.
Thank you.
Far more in tune with what they want to get out of it than the we're just going to throw some cones out there and guys are going to get some t-shirts and an opportunity to get a photo of coach, and that's what the camp is.
The Nebraska camp shift is sort of amazing to watch.
Yeah,
it is.
They needed it. They desperately needed it.
Yeah, here's the deal. At Nebraska right now, you everything matters in recruiting. You got to. Because it's very difficult.
You got to find your edge.
Right.
I mean, if you have guys that can play in your state and you can keep them, and whether walk-ons or whether as scholarship guys, like that needs to be your edge.
Right.